Talk Radio 790 KABC. Peter Tilden, live from Fleming Steakhouse, where they're honoring legends. He's laughing.
I'm chuckling.
In hockey history, Barry Melrose is with me, how many penalty minutes did you have in your career?
I think over 700.
730, something 38.
I wish that you had been asking me how many goals I scored, and I could have said 730, but that's Luke Robitaille numbers.
But see, I started out with that number because I'm from Philadelphia.
You're a Philly guy.
I'm a Philly guy.
You care more about penalties than goals any day of the week.
Dude, you played, you interview Bobby Clark. These guys have no teeth.
I played in the Spectrum in those days, so I know what it was like to walk into the Spectrum and play against Schultz and the Hound Dog and Zaleski and those guys. So
how tough was that? You know, Rob Zombie, the rocker, is actually doing the Broad Street Bullies movie. He's directing it and writing it because I didn't know he was a hockey fan. But explain to people, because I know I was going to interview you, and I look up just some stories about Barry, and they have the pro and con of fighting in hockey. And who do you think supports the pro of fighting in hockey?
Well, I didn't support it when we went into Philly. I would have been anti-fighting during those games.
They're really tough, right?
People always say, fighting doesn't intimidate you or anything like that. I'll tell you, when you walked into Boston in the 70s, you walked into Philly in the 70s, unless you were John Wayne, you were scared. Because you literally, there was a chance you could get hurt. It was that tough of hockey then, and there were basically no rules, prison rules every night, and anything went. And the thing is, if you fought one of the Flyers, like say you fought Zaleski and did well, then Hound Dog would be out there, and then say you fought him too and then did well, and then Schultz would be there. So it was a can't-win situation with Philadelphia, and Boston was just as bad, maybe worse. So it was a different era. Certainly an era that I'm glad isn't in the NHL anymore, but it was a tough time to play hockey.
But you did say you don't like the instigator rule. You like the fact that if somebody intimidates a player on your team, that he gets it in return and knows not to intimidate later on. It's part of the sport, and it's part of the entertainment, and it's part of what the fans like. I think your quote was, "I've never seen anybody walk out of an arena during a fight."
See, I think that one of the reasons there's so much chippy stuff now and yapping and stuff now is because there's no repercussions. Like, just anybody on the ice can say anything and he doesn't have to fight. A few years ago, if you were a yapper or you were running around and you were agitating and instigating, you'd have to stand up and fight because you couldn't turtle and you couldn't run away. You had to fight. And that kept a lot of the guys that didn't have courage from yapping and creating trouble. Now, everybody on the ice can yap and create trouble because there's no repercussions. And that's one of the things I think the NHL is missing. I think it was important that if you're tough and you're a hitter and you're physical, that's great. But you're gonna have to stand up and be challenged. You'll be challenged once, and if you stand up and be challenged and you meet that challenge, you're fine. No one will bother you again. But if you're going to be a physical player, you got to stand up and take the heat.
What an amazing sport! I look at you and your career as a player, and then as a coach, and then a successful broadcaster. Those are three big time careers, but you go back to Canada, and people from this country can't relate that in Canada, every weekend, families got together and watched hockey. That was religion. You grew up, you didn't talk, you didn't walk in front of the TV set. Your father would say, "Shut up and sit down because the game is on." To grow up as a little kid from 5 years on to watch it, and then to walk out that first game with Toronto, and you're hearing the national anthem and you're wearing the jersey. How big a hit is that?
Well, I grew up a Toronto Maple Leaf fan my whole life. I could name every Toronto Maple Leaf player. I got to meet them all when I became a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But it would be like, an American kid being a member of the Yankees, an American football kid being a member of the Green Bay Packers. It was unbelievable. It was awesome. And that was one of the biggest thrills of my life, is that first national anthem in Maple Leaf Gardens.
In hockey, did they embrace the new guy? Because in different sports, there's a different dynamic. Baseball's a different dynamic with the new guys. Football, there's a different dynamic with the new guys. What's it like in hockey when you hit the ice and you're the new guy?
You're tested, and your team is watching what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. The first shift that I had that night, I got in a fight, and I also scored a shorthanded goal that game. So that was a pretty important and impressive game, and something I'll always remember. But the other team will test you, and your own team is watching you to see how you handle diversity also.
It's funny because guys don't think about that. I got to talk to Aaron Rodgers before he played in coming up in the big game, and I said, "How are you preparing for the big game?" And he said, "I got to test my players because I got to know who I can rely on, who I can throw to, who's going to know it." Does that go on all season long, or is there a mentor, somebody who takes you under his wing and says, hey, you know what, Mar, you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't be doing this?
Depends if you're on a good team. The players police themselves, and you have leaders on the team. Also, the coaching staff is there. Also, a good coaching staff grabs you. I always use the saying, "I'll accept mistakes made out of aggressiveness, but never out of complacency." And obviously, if you make a mistake because you're trying, a coach will grab you a couple times, say, "Do this, do this, do this." But if you continue to make mistakes because you don't care, or you want not paying a price, you get rid of that guy. So there's a weaning out process, and the players do it on their own, and also the coaching staff does it on their own. But again, players want good. The group is so strong in professional hockey. That's the most important motivating tool is the group, and everybody wants to be part of the group. Everybody wants to be one of the guys. So you really use the group as a motivating factor in pro sports.
Talking to Barry Melrose, so what's the switch? So here you're a player, played for a lot of different teams under a lot of different coaches, coaching styles. Now you get the opportunity to coach the Kings, and you get them to the playoffs for the Stanley Cup in L.A.
Yep.
Pretty visible city. What was the thing that shocked you the most about being handed that title as coach that you didn't anticipate?
How much I love it here. When I got the job, I was going to be the next coach of the Detroit Red Wings. I was coaching in the American League. We won the American League that year. And, when Bruce came and I had a chance to coach Gretzky, you just don't, you don't pass those opportunities over. And, people said, well, you can't win in LA. You can't win in the South. Hockey will never win in the South. I think that rumor has been dispelled quite a bit lately. But how much I enjoyed it here. Bruce was so great. I had great people around. We had a great team. We had a great group of guys. So, and being here, you could tell that you could win here. I never once thought the good weather and the sunshine was a detriment. I thought it was a positive. And now you see what Dean and Daryl have done here the last 4 or 5 years here in LA.
We're going to take a brief break. Back with Barry Melrose, Talk Radio 790 KBC.